I was getting those patients anyway as a new doctor in the practice. So I said, well, this is more help from the hospital with the nurses and everything, and I'll get to learn a new technology. So I said, I'm going to go for it. And that's how everything started.
Paging Dr. Cook. Paging Dr. Cook. Dr. Cook, you're wanted in the OR. Dr. Cook, you're wanted in the OR.
Welcome to the Prescription for Success podcast with your host, Dr. Randy Cook.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Prescription for Success. I'm Dr. Randy Cook, your host for the podcast, which is a production of MD Coaches, providing leadership and executive coaching for physicians by physicians to overcome burnout, transition your career, develop as a leader, or whatever your goal might be. Visit MD Coaches on the web at mymdcoaches.com because you're not in this alone. My guest today is an internist who is one of the leading voices in chronic wound care and hyperbaric medicine. He's got a fascinating story of finding his place in an unlikely specialty as a result of sheer serendipity. So let's hear the story from Dr. Jayesh Shah. I'm really excited today to have as my guest on Prescription for Success, Dr. Jayesh Shah, who is a specialist in wound care and hyperbaric medicine, a gentleman that I have actually worked with and communicated with in the past. And it's a great pleasure to have you, Jay. So thank you so much for being on Prescription for Success.
It's a great honor to have me, on your podcast. I would have never dreamt when I was in medical school or when I was growing up that I'll get this chance to be in front of you.
Well, that's very kind of you. I'll have to say, when I was in medical school, we had never dreamt of a thing called podcast, but here we are. So, as is our typical way of doing things, Jay, we want to begin at the beginning, and I want to talk a little bit about your early life. I know you grew up in India, and I'm wondering where you found the influences that led you to medical school.
Well, I think it came from my parents mainly because there was no medical doctor in my family. And then, when someone gets sick, everybody was kind of puzzled or confused with multiple recommendations. And my parents dreamt that at least one of their kids will become a doctor. And with my experiences from my siblings, I was able to work hard and they all guided me to get into medical school. So I really am grateful to my family and my parents.
And do you have siblings in medicine as well?
No, I'm the only one who ended up going into the
I
med
see.
school.
And what sort of professional activity were your parents involved in, if any?
Well, my dad was a chief engineer in Gujarat State for
I see.
electricity board. So he was electrical and mechanical engineer. So most of my family is engineers, and I'm the only one who turned up to be a doctor in the family.
I
Yeah.
get the idea. But it sounds like the culture of higher education was certainly a thing in your family. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I think education was always been stressed when we were growing up. That so we always paid attention to our studies.
Yeah. And at about what age were you when you decided that medical school would be the thing for you?
Around 17 or 18, I formed up my mind that that's what I want to do. And again, it was a passion to help everyone around you. And I thought there's no other profession than medicine
Sure.
where you can help everyone. And so that was the real reason why I ended up going into medicine.
And tell us a little bit about how medical education happens in India. I know it's a little different than the U.S., and I think our audience would like to hear a little bit about the details. Can you share that with us?
Well, I think medical education in India is extremely hard, kind of, because you have to work very hard. It's very competitive.
Yeah,
And, because, like, if I give my example, I have to be in first 200 from 200,000 or more students to be able to get into med school.
that's pretty
And
steep odds.
yeah, and then once you are in med school, it's very competitive also. And also, they really demand and ask quite a bit of you. And then once you are in clinical rotations, you get a lot of experience because there are so many patients who needs your help. So you end up kind of getting so much experience in India by just seeing so many patients.
Hmm.
And I think that I really value. And in India, they allowed physicians who are in private practice to be our mentors, and they will come in university to teach. And I really like that experience also, because they were some seasoned physician who has been in practice for a long time, and they were allowed to teach us. So it was not just academic physicians. We
Yeah,
used to get variety of physicians who will come and teach us.
I bet that was a real plus because you're talking about people who are spending every moment of their day to day life seeing patients as opposed to giving lectures and writing papers. Is that right?
Exactly, exactly. So that was really helpful.
The real world experience, as it
The
were.
real world experience. Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that you actually start your medical education in India, comparatively speaking, at about the same time that you would have graduated from high school in the U.S. Am I close to correct?
That is correct. Yeah. I think we basically start medical school when we are in 18s.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but it is kind of 5.5 to 6 year. And we get Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery. So we get MBBS.
I see.
And so to complete the whole thing, it takes 6 years. So yeah, we do get done couple of years earlier than a regular student in United States.
Sure. And tell me about the decision and how you came to it that you would move to the U.S. That had to have been a big deal for you.
Oh, it was a huge deal, and I still remember that I was debating with my friends and family whether I should do it or not. And my sister and my uh, brother-in-law was in Canada at that time, and
Hmm.
they are the one who kind of inspired me to at least look around and see if this is something which you would like to do. So I just came on vacation for a couple of weeks during my medical school to see whether this is something I would like to do. And I came to Canada and visited United States in 1990 or 1991 for the first
Hmm.
time,
Hmm.
and checked out some of the universities and the hospitals, and checked out some of the friends who have been ahead of me. And I felt, oh, looks like this may be something I want to do,
Sure.
and follow your dream.
And so you landed a residency in internal medicine at Columbia University. That's a pretty big deal.
That was
Did
a
did you
huge.
realize that? Did you know that you had really
Oh,
sort of hit it out of the park on that?
yeah, that was a huge deal, and I was really very happy. I still remember the moment when I signed a contract to be a resident at Columbia University. I just made a call right away from the, at that time, you had to call from the telephone stations, right? Yeah, so
Right.
you went down and made an international call, and yeah, I still remember those moments. It's definitely a life changing moment,
Yeah, I bet it was.
and yeah, and really, really very grateful.
And I'm always really curious about what happened next, particularly in people who are making an international jump. So you had completed a rigorous program of education in your home country of India, and then my goodness, you move yourself to the Big Apple, right? You're in New York City. Tell us what that was like. Was it really a big time cultural shock for you, or did you just fit right in like that's where you belonged? What was the story at that point?
Well, New York, probably, if you have been in New York or if you have stayed in New York for a while, you will realize that, it's very culturally diverse,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's very welcoming to physicians or immigrants. So, really, it was not cultural shock to be in New York. It
Mm-hmm.
seemed like you were right placed in, and the big cities in India are probably similar in situation, where how New York is. So it was really not a big cultural shock. Honestly, it was not.
Yeah, I guess I'm not too surprised to hear that because you're absolutely correct. It's a very culturally diverse place. What about the adjustment to the approach to medical care? Did you feel comfortable with that?
Well, that required a little bit of work and help. And, it's funny in the first day when you're there, and, nurses, I'm grateful to the nurses. Really, they really
Oh,
help
aren't they the
you.
best?
They are there. They really helped us to understand some of the simple things that we didn't know, like
Yeah,
code blue, when they called for stat doctor and stat orders. I remember
yeah,
in my first day giving a stat orders of Tylenol, and and the nurses were laughing at me. I said, that's not a stat order.
yeah.
So yeah, I still remember and have fun about some of the things that we didn't know. Yeah.
I think that's probably true for any young physician. I think we get a lot of our education from the nurses, and my goodness, what would we do without them? It sounds like that was exactly your experience.
Exactly. Oh, they really helped us kind of, initially in your first year.
Well, good for you for pointing that out. My nurse wife will be very happy to hear about that acknowledgement. And so, as you moved through your training in internal medicine, where did you think that your future was at that point? What were you planning at that point as a second year, third year resident in internal medicine?
Well, in meantime, I got married, and so then that changed a little bit of priorities, and we wanted to then settle down, and so we were looking for a job opportunity, and I was on a visa which I don't know you'll be familiar with, but I was on a J1
Yeah,
visa,
sure.
and that required us to go to a rural area to
Mm-hmm.
serve
Mm-hmm.
for at least 3 years. So I was looking for a job in a rural area, and I ended up finding a job in Uvalde, Texas, for my J1 waiver. And
Okay. What is the next most recognizable place to wherever you were?
it's very close to San Antonio. It
Okay.
is,
Good.
yeah, it is. That's where we ended up after my waiver was done. But that's an interesting twist of my career, that how I ended up into wound care, which is probably going to be next question. So I want
Absolutely.
to so I
I
want to
mean,
let
the
you.
number of internists that decided to get into wound care, I can count on the fingers of one hand, I'm sure. So continue with the story, please.
Yeah, yeah. So what happened in Uvalde is, as they hired me to do a private practice in internal medicine, but at the same year, they were opening a wound healing and hyperbaric center, and I was the new kid in the block. All of the doctors were senior doctors who had no interest to learn something new. So the hospital administration kind of looked at me and said, "Jay, will you be interested?" And I said, "Well,
Wow.
I said, well, I'm going to look into it." And I met Dr. Paul Sheffield in San Antonio. And I said, let me first learn about this before I say yes or no. And
So your entire
that's
career was turned on the serendipitous whim of a hospital administrator in rural Southwest Texas.
that is exactly right.
All
And
right, we'll continue with the story.
and it definitely is a calling too, because at that time, if you remember, Dr. Cook, this is 25 30 years ago,
Right.
and the wound care was really not very well done,
I
and
really, yeah,
lot of these patients were just going from one place to another. And I, being a new doctor, was getting most of those patients because many of them, other doctors didn't want to really take care of those wound care
exactly.
patients.
Yeah.
And so, anyway,
Everybody
I
thought
was.
hyperbaric oxygen was voodoo. I mean, it was a different time.
Yeah, and no one really wanted to do wound care. So I was getting those patients anyway as a new doctor in the practice. So I
Hmm.
said, well, this is more help from the hospital with the nurses and everything, and I'll get to learn a new technology. So I said, I'm going to go for it. And that's how everything started.
That is really amazing. I had no idea. What a great story. Well, all
Yeah.
right, go on from there. I mean, I want to make sure that that our audience understands that Dr. Shah is one of the most recognizable names in the wound care landscape today. So tell us what happened next.
And again, I think I think it's just a calling. If you really look at it, I really felt terrible about our wound care patients that, they
They are
really.
truly a very neglected group of people, are they not?
Exactly. And then at that time, I felt like, I really need to do something to help this group of patients. And I put all my mental energy, passion to learn everything I can, about wound care. I was in small town, but I basically developed a practice and learned everything that anybody will do in a big city.
Yeah.
And my name got pretty recognized in neighboring city in San Antonio,
Hmm.
and they started talking about getting me in San Antonio. So that's the kind of how I ended up in San Antonio.
I see.
And then Dr. Sheffield was really a good mentor who,
That's a good connection.
right, who's running the hyperbaric courses.
Yeah,
So
and tell the audience about Dr. Sheffield.
yeah, Dr. Paul Sheffield is kind of a guru in hyperbaric medicine.
Yeah.
So he runs the hyperbaric medicine courses. He's the one of the first one who found, the role of oxygen
Hmm.
and measured oxygen around the wound by
Hmm.
putting electrode around the wound and to be able to identify that wound hypoxia.
And I
And
believe not an MD. Am I correct about that?
no, he's PhD. Yeah, he's a
He's a
PhD.
PhD, a researcher. Yeah. So
He's a
go ahead. I
researcher.
apologize for the interruptions, but I'm very,
No,
very excited about this.
and I think we just connected well, and and I think after that I've been helping him with his teaching in his courses in wound
Yeah,
care, and I kind of gave an idea that we should do wound care course, and he has been doing hyperbaric course for a long time, so we kind of now have both wound care and hyperbaric course every
sure,
month. And so we have taught, like, you know at least every month you have 50 students every month, so
sure.
probably we have taught more than 10 to 20,000 students so far.
Remember medical school? You were confident, studious, hardworking.
And you learned what to expect in all manner of patient care. Then reality struck. Regulations, expenses, staff management, and administration. Is this what we signed up for? Stress on the verge of burnout, no time for family, or the reason we got into medicine. Helping people. What are the options when you're afraid you're in the wrong career? Transition, teach, quit? What if there was another way? MD Coaches can help. We're a team of medical professionals with a century of experience in the clinical and business sides of medicine. More importantly, MD Coaches has been where you are, stressed and trying to navigate a world school didn't prepare us for. MD Coaches is your mentor, your confidant, to help you make your practice shine, navigate administrations, and successfully lead staff and projects. Or if you're ready to transition, we can help there too. MD Coaches is doctors helping doctors. Visit our website to receive a free, no-obligation consultation. Go to mymdcoaches.com/RX. That's mymdcoaches.com/RX. Isn't it time someone else was on your side? Don't let the business of being a doctor stop you from doing what you love. That site again, mymdcoaches.com/RX. Visit us today.
We'll get back to our interview in just a moment, but right now I want to tell you a little bit about Physician Outlook. If you haven't discovered this remarkable magazine, please do so very soon. It was created by physicians for physicians to showcase the intersection between clinical and non-clinical interests, whether it's writing, painting, cooking, politics, and dozens of other topics. Physician Outlook gives a physician perspective. It's available online and in print. It's really unique among physician lifestyle magazines. And like the Prescription for Success podcast, Physician Outlook amplifies the voice of any physician who has something to say. It also engages patients who still believe in physician-led, team-based care. And Prescription for Success listeners can get 3 months free when you enter our promo code RX for Success and select the monthly option at checkout. That's a really great deal on this stunning publication. And now let's get back to today's interview. And I'd like to know some more details. Did you find Paul or did he find you?
I think it's basically I found him because I was looking to learn
Looking for help.
more in hyperbaric medicine. Yeah.
Well, I don't think you could have possibly made a better connection. Anyone in our audience who has any familiarity with hyperbaric medicine will know that Dr. Sheffield is unquestionably one of the icons. So you made the move. Then you made the move from the rural area into San Antonio, and what was it like at that point? Did somebody ask you to open a wound center and gave you some HBO chambers, or what were the details like?
Yeah, well, I kind of joined someone who helped me to cover physician on a weekends and on a Friday basis. So I was helping them on a PRN anyway from San Antonio, and then they from Uvalde. So
you were dividing your time between the two areas,
two places. Yeah, I was trying to help whenever they needed some help. So I'll go in and do the fill in. And eventually, there was an opportunity that opened up for me. So in San Antonio.
Well, that's really a great story, and you have really made the best of it. I think you're a little modest, and although you were working with a giant in the field, you have really become quite a leader. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I think it's just God's blessing, really, honestly. You're in the right time at the right place. And if you have, I think I continued my passion. The inner goal was just to help everyone, help people, help patients. And I think that carried me through all the changes in healthcare and everything that happened in my career. But, the goal I kept this goal of trying to do my best, and I think that continue to help me excel.
I think, and I'm really interested in getting your thoughts on this. One of the things that I discovered when I became involved in wound care, and of course, I moved into wound care from a general and vascular surgery background, but the thing that became immediately obvious to me was that the reason people have chronic wounds is because they have chronic problems. And they really need an internist as much as they need anything else. Wouldn't you agree?
I definitely will. I will be a little biased, but I definitely, I will definitely agree that because it's a complex problem, right? A wound does not heal just because of one reason. It's multiple reasons. And many times I find it's not anything about medicine that we know that, that's the reason why they don't heal. It's mainly social determinants of health. You find,
Exactly.
you find many times that these patients are truck drivers, they're working in factories, and they can't really stop working.
Right.
And they have diabetic wounds, they have venous stasis ulcers, and they're just not able to take care of it, and not follow your recommendations because they're afraid that they're going to lose the job, and
Mm-hmm.
things go downhill after that. And we see the bad complications of all the things that we can ever imagine. Uh,
And as a result of that experience and working side by side with giants such as Paul Sheffield, you have really become one of the most recognizable people in wound care. So, would you like to tell us? And I can tell from this brief encounter that you're a modest fellow, but you've been very active and quite pivotal in the development of many of the organizations that have worked to advance the science and the art of wound care. So, would you like to tell us about your experience with the hyperbaric oxygen organizations and the various wound care organizations that you're associated with?
Well, I try to again have a focus of how we can move the needle, whichever association I have been associated with. So I've been associated with several of them. I recently am a past president. Just immediate past president of American College of Hyperbaric Medicine. I'm
Mm-hmm.
involved in Undersea and Hyperbaric Medical Societies, and with God's blessings, I've received several awards from UHMS. I've been involved in several wound care societies too, like
Mm-hmm.
ACCWS, which is a American College of Clinical Wound Specialists, and APWCA. So I've been involved with several of these societies and tried to help them in many ways where I can. But my goal was always to spread the knowledge of wound care
Sure.
in the best possible way.
And if I'm not mistaken, you have actually been instrumental in the establishment of hyperbaric oxygen as a certified medical specialty. Am I correct about that?
I don't know whether I will take a credit for that.
Well, I don't want you to take all the credit, but
I think no. I've helped in several
yeah,
ways to do that, but I think there are many other gurus or many other people better than me and experienced than me who work to get there. I think what I have helped is developing wound care as a specialty is it helping with that, and trying to develop that certification book I think has been a really very helpful for moving the needle. So everybody who does wound care realizes that it's just not about dressing changes, it's about
sure.
much more than that. And I think the books that we have written, I recently have an app which I don't know whether you're familiar with. It's called Wound Doctor app. It's a free app, and my goal was to everybody at least have a basic knowledge of wound care,
Hmm.
from nursing home nurses to hospital nurses to everybody who has to really do a wound care. So I made a very simple app that you might want to look at, and I think that's for everyone. It's a free app, and my goal was to just have education throughout the world. Everybody who wants to learn about wound care, they should learn, and they should provide the same level of care. Doesn't matter where the patient is.
Yeah, I'd love to take a look at that. Unfortunately, I stopped practicing a couple of years ago, and I don't think it was available at that point. But you make a very good point, and I think your experience in rural southwestern Texas probably planted that seed, because there are so many people with non-healing wounds that are never going to see a wound specialist, and the notion that you could put some knowledge in the hands of those people that would help is really quite admirable, and I really applaud your efforts in that regard. And the other thing is that even though you're unwilling to take any credit for the establishment of hyperbaric oxygen as a medical specialty, you have unquestionably been very instrumental in coming up with the list of standards that should be met if somebody is going to hold themselves out to the public as a specialist in that regard. So I think you're to be congratulated for your effort in that regard. So stand up and take a bow.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me ask you this. What do you think is next in the world of hyperbaric medicine? And you might even want to mention some things that people may not be aware of as usefulness in the world of hyperbaric medicine. I, for example, had the opportunity to treat a patient with central retinal artery occlusion and sudden blindness. We had a good result with that. So would you like to mention a few of those things that people might not think of as useful diagnoses for hyperbaric medicine?
Well, that's a great question, because it's very timely question, because just 2 days ago, FDA just in their newsletter sent information about hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and they added two indications in their list, which
Did they
was
really? I hadn't heard
yeah,
this.
which was not there. That is mainly central retinal artery occlusion and sensory neural hearing loss. Undersea and Hyperbaric Medical Society had approved those indication
Mm-hmm.
quite a while ago,
Right.
but it was still considered off-label. So just
Mm-hmm.
2 days ago, it got approved. And listen to this. One more thing is that they even said, that if you are going to go for hyperbaric medicine, make sure you go to a center which is accredited by Undersea and Hyperbaric Medical Society. That's a pretty big step. FDA is saying that.
That is a
That
big deal.
Yeah, that's I think a big news that just came out 2 days ago.
That's terrific. It's been a long road and quite a struggle. And I'm sure you've probably heard the story of the late Bob Warner and Caroline Fife going to the people at CMS to argue for getting treatment of diabetic foot ulcers on the list, and that was a long time ago. And now we're talking about treating things like hearing loss and ischemic blindness. That's really quite a victory, and I think those of you who have been part of that struggle are really to be congratulated. So I'm going to offer my congratulations.
Thank you. I hope, I think there are many more who deserves that congratulations than me, but thank you for that.
Well, you certainly belong in the group, Jay. And listen, it's been a great pleasure talking to you today. And we've come to the point in the program where I'm going to give an opportunity for you to say whatever is on your mind. And this is where we get your prescriptions for success. So, to our audience, I want to recommend that you pay close attention. And Dr. Jay Shah is going to give us his personal prescriptions for success.
I think number one is never be afraid to stand up for something. if you believe in something, it doesn't matter what it is. And that's what I have done in last 25 years, advocated on behalf of my patients and physicians at local county societies, state level, at TMA, and at American Medical Association. So whatever it takes, if you feel that something needs to be changed, don't be afraid to stand up. Number two is follow your passion, and success will follow. And sometimes you just have to flow. And if you look at my career, it's just been it's like a flow. I flowed with the like a river. Wherever it took me, I went there and tried to do my best. And the third thing is, I would like all the young physicians to really understand how important is to stay physically and mentally fit and taking care of yourself. I would like younger physicians to know that they need to balance their time, not only between work and home, but also find time for themselves. Physicians should incorporate some kind of relaxation strategies in their day to day life. If physicians are healthy, then they can take good care of others. Personally, I hit the gym at 5 a.m. or ride my bike. I make sure that I do some physical activity in a day. If I couldn't do it in the morning, then I'll after I go home, I'll bike a ride. I'll do something every day. I'll play racquetball, or I will play cricket, or so I'll do something. So that is what I will really advise the group, that is really the prescription for success, is to really stay physically and mentally fit, because that's going to help you to take good care of your patients.
That's really wonderful advice, Jay, and I really appreciate the part about a healthy mind and a healthy body. I think so often physicians are very inclined to forget about that. And you said something that really caught my attention, and I've got to know, where do you find a place to play cricket in San Antonio? This is a little hard for me to buy.
So we have a pretty good group of
Do you really?
cricket passionate passionate players who meet every Sunday, believe me or not, at 6 a.m., 6 to 6:30 a.m., and we play till 9:30, because once the sun starts, we hit home, or people have to go to the church or temple, so we finish by 9:30. But I've been playing cricket for last 10 years, every Sunday,
My
religiously.
goodness.
Yeah.
I tell you, every one of these interviews has a surprise for me, and this one may be the prize winner of all. Cricket in San Antonio, Texas. Come on. Give me a break.
Right.
That's fabulous. Jay, listen, it's been so much fun to talk to you again. I've really enjoyed it, and I don't want to take up any more of your time. So before we go, I want to give you an opportunity to let our guests know where they can follow you and the work that you do. So if you've got websites or email addresses or anything that you'd like to share, please go ahead.
Okay, I think I'm pretty active on that. So it's www.linkedin.com/in/Jayesh Shah MD. My website is www.wounddoctors.com. My email is wounddoctorshaw@gmail.com. You can download my free app, which is just Wound Doctor. It's one word, which you can get. And now, we didn't get to talk about the WoundCon, which has been really a very successful virtual conference. So I will see you in one of those conferences. We do it 3 times a year, www.woundcon.com. So I'll see you somewhere. If you are in wound care, I'll definitely get to see you. Thank you.
And thank you again for being here, Dr. Jayesh Shah. It has been a terrific pleasure, and thanks so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening with us today, and thanks also to Ryan Jones, who composes and performs our theme music for us. We hope you'll follow us on your favorite podcast platform, and we depend on your feedback to help us get better. So please leave us a review and hopefully a 5-star rating. Also, please visit our website at rxforsuccesspodcast.com, where you can offer your very own prescription for success on SpeakPipe. And of course, be sure to fill your personal prescription for success with my next episode.